What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the 10 health benefits of the low carb or ketogenic diet. Now, a quick disclaimer, I've personally done the keto diet myself probably around 3 years ago. I tried it out because a few of my clients were asking me about it. And I knew a little bit about it, but I did want to experiment on my own before I give advice and my thoughts on it. As a personal trainer, I do like to try out all different types of diets so I can get a personal feel and experience on kind of how I feel and the different side effects. Now, before I go into the 10 health benefits, I do want to say that from my personal experience, I actually didn't mind it that bad as far as doing the keto diet. It was definitely much tougher than I thought because just eating extremely high fats and then medium protein and pretty much no carbs is extremely tough. Also very, very limiting. So when you're by yourself, maybe it's not as hard, but when you go out with friends, family, for holidays, for parties or whatever, it just makes it extremely difficult and limited. And I personally just don't think that's the way to live life. But did I see results? Sure. Yes, I did see results. I actually did feel my cognitive as far as my focus was much better. My hunger definitely went down. I definitely was like way less bloated just because since you're not eating carbs, you're also not holding that much water. But anyway, I only did it for about, I would say, two or 3 months, and then I stopped just because it just wasn't sustainable. Like someone wants to lose a little bit of weight, sure, but it's just not a sustainable diet. Like to only eat high fats, no carbs, and protein is, you can only, at least from my opinion, you can only do it for so long before you just get tired of it. Like you want a dessert, you want an ice cream, you want a cookie. Like in my opinion, the best around diet is a well-rounded diet, so you actually don't feel like you're on a diet. And with this, you definitely do. But again, it's just my personal experience. I do know people who actually have done this for years and they still like it. So anyway, with my own personal thoughts out of the way, let's go ahead and get straight into the facts. All right. So also, I'm wearing these headphones, so hopefully you can hear me better versus just through the regular microphone. So hopefully with this, sounds a little bit more clear. If it does, let me know. So the first one is going to be low carb diets reduce your appetite. And from my personal experience, that is definitely a fact. So let's see, summary studies indicate that cutting carbs can automatically reduce your appetite and calorie intake. The calorie intake is definitely because, so quick thought, I'm going to ramble a little bit. So any diet works. And the reason why it works is because you're omitting or you're skipping a whole entire food group or the time of the day. So for example, with keto or low carb, the reason why it works is because you're cutting out 1/3 of all the food. So you have your protein, your carbs, and the fats. So you're essentially eliminating all the carbs. So now you only have two things to eat, carbs and fats. And you can only eat carbs and fats for so long before like you just get, your body gets full or you just get tired of eating it. So that's why, of course, you're going to lose weight and your appetite goes down because you're emitting a whole entire 1/3 of the food group. And also just fats in general, they're a lot more calorically dense. So for every 1 gram of fat, there's 9 calories. For every 1 gram of carb, there's 4 calories. So it takes, fat's much more calorically dense. So it also takes much longer to break down, which is why you also feel more satiated for much longer. All right, so number 2, we have low carb diets lead to more weight loss at first. Keep in mind, keep this point, loss at first. All right, and so one of the biggest reasons, let's see, summary, almost without exception, low carb diets lead to more short-term weight loss than low fat diets. However, low carb diets seem to lose their advantage in the long term. And honestly, I couldn't agree with this more. So just to talk about at the beginning of the video is that carbs hold the most amount of water. So for every 1 gram of carb, you usually hold like 1.4 grams of water. So that's not really relevant. Where the point is that the higher carbs you eat, the more bloated you get because carbs hold water, right? So if you're pretty much completely taking out carbs out of the equation, the first few days up to a week, you're going to lose a lot of weight. But that weight is what we call water weight, right? It's the water retention and the bloatedness that your body holds. So a lot of people who do keto diet, they're like, oh my gosh, in the first 2 weeks, I lost 10 pounds. Sure, but like 8 of those pounds as water weight. You didn't actually lose like 8 pounds of body fat, which is obviously what we try to target when we try to target weight loss. So yeah, of course, you're going to lose water weight when you don't have a lot of carbs. All right, let's see. As a greater proportion of fat loss comes from your abdominal activity. Let's see what the summary is. A large percentage of the fat loss on low carb diets tends to be harmful abdominal fat that is known to cause serious metabolic problems. Not too much comment about that, but that's pretty interesting. I actually didn't know that. Yeah, not too much to say about that. Let's see, triglycerides tend to drop drastically. Low carb diets are, low carb diets are very effective at lowering blood triglycerides, which are fat molecules that increase your risk of heart disease. Again, that makes sense because you're eating a low carb to no carb diet. Increased levels of good HDL cholesterol. So you have your cholesterol, you have your HDL and LDL. LDL seems to be the not good one, the bad one, and HDL, high density lipoproteins, it's the good one. Low carb diets tend to be high in fat, which tends to impressive increase of blood levels of good HDL, which that makes sense. Well, hopefully you're also eating the good kinds of fat, because you can, as you know, there's saturated, unsaturated, and trans fat. So obviously we don't want to eat the trans fats. Just because you eat a high fat diet doesn't mean you're eating all good fats. So obviously, if you're eating nuts, if you're eating avocados, those are good types of fats. But and it's like obviously like steaks and stuff. But obviously eating just like straight up butter and just like really greasy and fried food, that's obviously not going to be the best, because that's very, very processed and very, very saturated fats. Let's see, number 6, reduce blood sugar and insulin levels. I mean, this one is pretty obvious as well, but let's read. The best way to lower blood sugar and insulin levels is to reduce carb consumption, which may treat possible, even reverse type 2 diabetes. This also makes sense because the relationship that blood sugar and insulin have is that as you eat more food, and specifically carbs, right, your blood sugar goes up because you eat those carbs, and your insulin in your body spikes to bring the blood sugar down, right? They work in an inverse relationship. And so obviously if you're not consuming any carbs or very, very little carbs, guess what? Your insulin doesn't have to work that hard. So it becomes very, very efficient. So yes, this makes sense completely. And yes, I actually have heard that people with type 2 diabetes who have used the keto diet, but also the intermittent fasting as well, like I mentioned in the last video, there have been cases where it reverses type 2 diabetes, which is pretty cool. All right, let's see. 7, may lower blood pressure. Cutting carbs leads to a significant reduction in blood pressure, which should reduce your risk of mini diabetes. Again, I've heard of this one. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Number 8, effective against metabolic syndrome. Let's see what this says. Healthy low-carb diets effectively reverse all 5 key symptoms of metabolic syndrome, a serious condition which indicates risk for heart disease and type 2 diabetes. Interesting. I would want to see more research on this because I feel like almost every diet claims stuff like this. Number 9, improved bad LDL cholesterol levels. Improved bad. So that means if it's improved, then it should lower your LDL. When you eat low carb diet, the size of your bad LDL particles increase, which reduces the harmful effects. Cutting carbs may also reduce the number of total LDLs in your bloodstream. So when we say improve, we actually mean reduce the LDL. For HDL improvements, we want to make it higher. And number 10, therapeutic for several brain disorders. I have heard of stuff like this because your brain actually runs on majority of fat. So a high fat diet for your brain is actually really good because your brain is like pretty much all fatty acids up there. Low carb diet and keto diet have proven benefit treating epilepsy in children and also studied for their effects on brain conditions, right? And so, yeah, and then this is bottom line. And if you want to read it, you can, but let's go ahead and wrap this video up. So yeah, as you can see, there are a lot of health benefits to the keto diet or low carb diet. You don't have to go full keto. Full keto is like where you have like 5% or less of your whole entire diet into carbs. And low carb, you can do like 20% or like 10% or less. So you can be a little bit more flexible. But long story short, this article, obviously I do agree with a lot of stuff. And if you do want to try keto yourself, you can. But again, from my personal point of view, again, not personal, it's not sustainable. It's something that you can do for a little bit of time. Maybe you'll lose a little bit of weight, but then you can go back to maybe going a little higher in carbs, maybe 10 to 15%. and that may work as well. But to go strict full keto diet for years and years and years, for me personally, it wasn't feasible. And I also like carbs, and I don't like feeling restricted. When you feel restricted, like as a kid, when your parents say you can't have that or you can't do that, guess what? Your human instinct naturally wants it more, right? So when you're depriving yourself of a certain food group, you're gonna naturally crave it more. But maybe not for you. That was my experience. Anyways, hope you found this video helpful. If you did, comment down below or any videos you want to see me make in the future. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.